Hi you guys, today's lesson is on factoring. You are going to learn how to factor binomials today. This is something that is a new skill for you. It's not something that you've seen before, but it's going to be easy and it's going to be lots of fun. I'm sure you're really excited. Before we get started, make sure that you have this paper right here, the one that says factoring expressions in front of you, because that's the one we're going to be working on together. Now, the reason that I called this factoring binomials is because as you look at each of these sample problems, you can see that there are two terms, okay? One term, two terms, one term, two terms, one term, two terms. In math, terms are separated by either an addition or subtraction, okay? And so you can see that each of these are two terms separated by addition or subtraction. Factoring is really just the opposite of distributing. Okay, so when we distribute, remember that if there is a number right next to a parenthesis and there is more than one term inside the parenthesis, we have to multiply both of the terms that are inside the parenthesis by what's out front. So this becomes 3x plus 6. When we factor, we are going to be dividing out the greatest common factor from both of the terms. So distributing is multiplying through, factoring is dividing out. Our very first step when we factor is we have to figure out what we're dividing out. And the thing that we're going to be dividing out is the greatest common factor between both of the terms. Okay, now factors are what multiplies together to get to a number. Okay, so if we have the number 6, the factors of 6 would be 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. These are the different ways that you can multiply together to get to 6. You can do 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. And then if we look at, so that's our first term is a 6a. Our second term is a 9. Okay, so if we list the factors of 9, things that multiply together to get to 9 would be 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. So if we look at both of these sets of factors, our greatest common factor would be 3. That's the biggest number that both of these terms right here have in common. So once we've identified our greatest common factor, which is a 3, we're going to put that in front of our parentheses. Then we are going to divide out a 3 from both of these terms. So 6a divided by 3 would be 2a. Now remember, this subtraction becomes adding a negative. So a negative 9 divided by 3 would be a negative 3. This is the factored form of 6a subtract 9. The cool thing about factoring is you can always distribute back through to see if you came up with what you started with. So if we take 3 times 2a, that does give us 6a, and 3 times a negative 3 does give us our negative 9. Okay, let's go ahead and look at another one of these. Let's look at 12a plus 30. So if we want to factor this expression, remember factoring is the opposite of distributing. Our very first step is to figure out what our greatest common factor is between the two terms. So if we have a 12 and we have a 30, number-wise, factors of 12 would be 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Factors of 30 would be 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6. Okay, so now we want to look for the greatest common factor, the biggest number that they have in common, which would be a 6. 6 is our greatest common factor. So now we take the 6, we write it in front of our parentheses, Okay, because remember we're doing the opposite of distributing. We're going to divide out a 6 from both of these terms. So 12a divided by 6 is a 2a. And a 30 divided by 6 is a 5. And remember, the cool thing is, once you have factored, you can always multiply back through to make sure that you get to what you started with. So 6 times 2a is 12a. 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, let's look at another one of these. 20c plus 4. So remember, first step when you are factoring is to identify the greatest common factor. So factors of 20 and factors of 4 would be 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. Factors of 4 would be 1 times 4, 2 times 2. And so now we just need to identify our greatest common factor, which in this case is, in fact, a 4. Okay, this is our greatest common factor. So now we write our 4 down. That's going to go in front of our parentheses. And then distributing is multiplying through, but factoring is dividing out. So we're going to divide both of these terms by a 4. 20c divided by 4 is a 5c. 4 divided by 4 is a 1. Okay, anytime you have the same thing divided by itself, that's always a 1. And then your last step is to check to make sure that you can distribute to get back to what you started with. So 4 times 5c is 20c. 4 times 1 is 4. So this is our factored form of 20c plus 4. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at this one right here. 56 times by p minus 40. Okay, so let's take our two numbers. Let's list our factors. 4 and 14. And then we also have 7 times 8 is 56. And then 40, we have 1 and 40. We have 2 and 20. We have 4 and 10. And we have 5 and 8. So we want to identify our greatest common factor, which in this case is going to be an 8. So now we write the 8 in front of our parentheses. And remember, factoring is just dividing out. So we're going to divide out an 8 from both of these terms. 56p divided by 8 is 7p. And then we have our minus sign, and then 40 divided by 8 is 5. Okay, now you could also write this as either of these answers are correct. Anytime you have a subtraction sign in front of a number, it's the same as adding a negative. Okay, so now let's distribute back through to make sure we can get back to our original answer. 8 times 7p is 56p, and 8 times 5 is 40. Okay, let's do a few more of these, and then I think you guys will be ready to practice some of these. Let's do 24c plus 30. So first step is to find the greatest common factor between 4c and 30. Factors of 24 would be 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Factors of 30 would be 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Greatest common factor here would be a 6. So now we write our 6 out front of our parentheses, and we're going to divide both of these terms by a 6, which leaves us with 4c plus 5. I have no idea why my 4s always get messed up on this tablet. Okay, so 4c plus 5. Okay, let's look at the next one. 33j plus 22. Factors of, and I'm just going to do them right in the box, and I think you guys should be able to fit these right in your box too. So factors of 33 would be 1 times 33, 3 times 11. Factors of 22 would be 1 times 22, 2 times 11. So 11 is our greatest common factor. So all we have to do is take and put our 11 in front of our parentheses, and then we're going to divide both these terms by 11. 33j divided by 11 is a 3j. 22 divided by 11 is plus 2. And then 11 times 3j is 33j, and 11 times 2 is 22. So like I said originally, the cool thing about factoring is that you can just distribute, and as long as you get back to what you started with, then you know that you have factored correctly. Okay? Let's do 2 more, and then I'm going to have you guys practice some of these on your own. So 24c plus 32. So we list our common factors, or we find our greatest common factor, I should say. So factors of 24. One times 24, 2 times 12, and we already did this one, didn't we? 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Factors of 32 would be 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8. Greatest common factor here would be an 8. So we write the 8 in front of our parentheses, and then we divide both of these by 8. 24 divided by 8 is 3c. 32 divided by 8 is plus 4. Okay, and then the last example I'm going to do for you, 49s minus 63. If we list the factors of 49 and the factors of 63, factors of 49 are 1 times 49, 7 times 7. Factors of 63 are 1 times 63, 3 times 21, 7 times 9. So that means our greatest common factor would be a 7. So we write our 7 in front of the parentheses. We divide a 7 out of both of these. So that gives us a 7s. 63 divided by 7 is a 9. And remember, there's a subtraction sign here. Okay. And if you wanted to, you can change this to adding a negative. And another way to write this answer would be 7s plus a negative 9. Both of these work. Both of these are correct. These are equivalent expressions. Okay, now what I want you to do at this point is I want you to turn your paper over to the next page, okay? And it starts with 24h plus 8. I want you to push pause on your video, and you are going to do these problems right here. You're going to do these 8 problems, and then you're going to push play, and then you're going to see if you got them correct. If you got them correct, you are then going to bring it back to me and show me that you got these correct. If you didn't get them correct, I want you to look at what you missed and then correct them and then bring it back and show it to me. And then after you've checked that off with me, you are going to finish just the last 2 pages for today. So 24h plus 8, this is where you're starting. Go ahead and push pause. Complete these on your own, then push play and check to see if you got them correct. Okay, so here are all the answers. If you did not get these answers, I want you to go ahead and put a little mark by the ones that you missed, and I want you to go back through and see if you can figure out why you missed it. I did want to show you something really quickly. On this one, for example, let's say that you didn't find the greatest common factor. Let's say that you just picked a 2. Well, if you would have taken 18n plus 42 and you divide 2 out of both of these, that would give you a 9n plus 21. So you did factor something out, but if you look at 9n and 21, those two still have a common factor. So it's just like when you simplify fractions. If you don't find the greatest common factor, you have to then simplify again. Okay, so in this case, 3 is in common with these two. So you already factored out a 2, but then you would have to divide out another 3. And you already have the 2 out front. So when you divide out another 3, you're going to have to multiply those together. And then 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so I just wanted to make you aware that if you do not get the greatest common factor the first time, you need to check the two terms and make sure that there isn't any other common factors. And if there are, you need to still keep factoring until you have all of the common factors divided out. Okay, so at this point, once you have these all corrected, bring it back, show it to me, and then I want you to finish the last two of these on your own. Okay, so you are going to check it off with me, then you're going to finish the 12a minus 8b one, and you are going to finish the 14a plus 9a one. And actually, as I am looking at this, I want you guys to just do the one that says the 12a minus 8b. Just do those 8 problems, and then I'm going to show you how to do the last page tomorrow. Okay, so for today, you are just finishing this one page on your own, and then when you're done, come check it off with me.